In this video, let's turn our attention to DHCP Scopes because you'll hear about these on the exam, and I want you to understand what they're talking about. Now let's start off with a simple question. What exactly is a DHCP scope? Well, it is simply a range of addresses that the DHCP server will assign to client computers. And a scope provides addresses for a single subnet. So scopes have a one-to-one relationship generally with a subnet or a network segment. Now there are 4 types of DHCP scopes, and you need to be familiar with each one of these. And those types are normal, multicast, super scope, and failover scope. So let's take these one at a time and talk about the unique aspects of each one. First of all, a normal scope, this is the one you see most often. This is used to maintain and assign IP version 4 addresses for class A, B, and C networks. Now the normal scope is where we actually go in and list the range of addresses that we want to assign out to clients based on the particular segment. And we can also use a normal scope to provide additional information for network services. And these are also called options, and we'll talk about options in a separate video as well. But these are things like subnet mask, default gateway, DNS server addresses, those sorts of things. And in the normal scope, we can also manage or offer exclusions and reservations. Now, exclusions are addresses that will not be assigned ever, and reservations are addresses for specific devices. And this is usually based on the MAC address, or just on the MAC, you'll hear it called, and that's the Media Access Control address that's hardwired into every network interface card. Now the multicast scope is just exactly what it sounds like. This is going to maintain and assign IP version 4 addresses for class D networks, which is your multicast IP addresses. And this is created and maintained very similarly to normal scopes. However, a multicast scope does not provide things like subnet masks, reservations, or any of the other options. Instead, it assigns a TTL, we call it, which in English means time to live value. Now, the time to live value is really there just to specify the number of routers any message with this address can pass through. Now the default TTL is 32. Now what that means is any IP address that came from the multicast scope is going to be a multicast address. It's going to have a time to live of 32. Every time that particular packet with that address passes through a router, the TTL is decremented by 1, meaning it goes through a router, it becomes 31. Goes through another router, it becomes 30. Another router, 29. You see the pattern, right? When that TTL gets to 0, the packet is dropped and it just simply goes out of existence. This is to prevent this packet from eternally bouncing around the internet. Now, a superscope is simply a container object that we use for our IP version 4 scopes, and this lets us group a number of scopes together. And we can use this to distribute IP addresses from multiple logical IP networks to the same physical network segment. We can group multiple scopes together on a server so we can activate or deactivate all those scopes at one time as a unit. It really just gives us more global access to our scopes. A failover scope are scopes that are split between 2 DHCP servers for redundancy, fault tolerance, load balancing, whatever. So those are the scopes you need to be aware of. Just know that much information. And again, I want to encourage you, if DHCP is a totally new idea to you, I would go out and do some reading and get some hands-on with it before you go sit this exam.